Hey, and welcome to Highbrow, Lowbrow. I'm your host, Shaun. With me here is Roun Sensei. Each week we get together to discuss a highly acclaimed, well-regarded film against a cheesy blockbuster.
Basically an artsy-fartsy film versus a mindless good time. So, for those of you new to the channel, what we do here is that obviously Shaun picks the highbrow films, I pick the lowbrow films, but each week we take turns in picking the genre. And this week it was Shaun's turn, and he had the great idea to pick. What did you pick, Shaun?
I picked romantic comedies because I do like romantic comedies. I think there's a lot of fun ones. And I thought it would be especially an interesting choice for a manly fellow such as Roun.
So basically, it's easier, obviously, to pick a highbrow film for a romantic comedy, and for a lowbrow, there's a lot of trash out there. So it's either you sit down and, watch 2 hours of absolute scrotum stomping something. So the good thing about it is that Shaun didn't specify chick flicks. Otherwise, you'd be relegated to a very, very small spectrum of things. So he said romantic comedies.
There's a lot of chick flicks.
A lot of chick flicks, but a lot of leeways as well. So anyway, what did you pick for the highbrow, Shaun?
First up, we have Philadelphia Story.
Cheers, man.
Cheers. This classic romantic comedy focuses on Tracy Lord, a Philadelphia socialite who has split from her husband, C.K. Dexter Haven, due both to his drinking and to her overly demanding nature. As Tracy prepares to wed the wealthy George Kittredge, she crosses paths with both Dexter and prying reporter Macaulay Connor. Unclear about her feelings for all three men, Tracy must decide whom she truly loves. So, Roun, what did you think of this highbrow movie?
I thought it was really, it's a classic film. I've never heard of it. I've seen Jimmy Stewart, Cary Grant. I've never seen Katharine Hepburn, but to me, Jimmy Stewart and Katharine Hepburn really takes the cake on this. In the beginning, Katharine Hepburn, I don't know about her. I don't know about her past movies. I've heard of her, but it seems to me that in the beginning she was kind of like a Lauren Bacall kind of character. Very, very tough, very, she's like that. She's got the elbow pads. She's got the hairstyle.
What do you mean by Lauren Bacall? Just a very strong, independent woman?
I thought she was going to be one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. I thought she was just going to stay that way, a very sexy femme fatale, kind of tough, got really fiery one-liners.
Yeah.
And then she's just going to stay that way. But no, she transcends from that. She becomes a girly girl. She becomes a vulnerable woman. She becomes a daughter trying to get her father. She's like, the performance is really, it gave a lot of depth to an otherwise very, very trivial kind of narrative. Yeah. The performances to me was so good, especially with Jimmy Stewart. So he was like Katharine Hepburn. He was playing a very kind of tough guy dude, very Humphrey Bogart. But then you kind of get to know him, and then towards the end you see him drunk. That's the best bit.
But oh, C.K. Dexter Haven!
What's up?
You are.
He's such a good drunk. He's such a great drunk. And a lot of it is kind of like, if you look at movies back then, a lot of them are very choreographed. A lot of them are very scripted. And you would think that a lot of them are kind of like perfected in a way. You can't just deviate into it. So I'm very curious to see how the development of this happened. Did they allow ad-libs? Because it seems to me that there was a lot of things like that. A lot of ad-libs, especially with Jimmy Stewart being drunk.
Well, look, George, if it's that much of a chore,
Not
just...
for me! Oh, no, you don't, Connie. You've been too attentive as it is.
George, please.
Yeah, I thought, and there was a lot of depth to all the characters, honestly. From the sort of girlfriend, reporter assistant to Jimmy Stewart, to the dad, to Uncle Willie, to the little girl. She has like a sort of cool narrative. Every one of these characters has like a small sort of cool narrative that's going throughout the film that develops.
Yeah, speaking about the other characters, I mean, holy shit, this ensemble is such a powerhouse of performances. I mean, you got the photographer girl.
Yeah.
She was absolutely super hot. I don't know who she is. She's probably
She was very,
She is so fucking hot. However, Katharine Hepburn, because of her acting, she became that one.
The girl you want.
I really believe she surpassed her because the way she's just flirting when she was drunk and all that. I was like, wow, she is, she got me. Anyway, other than that, you have the little girl. What an actress, right? Like,
yeah, she is a lot of fun.
So and the torso even more so Lydia. What is this?
Yeah, she really can trade the barbs, well with anybody, and I think that's probably like one of a classic sort of trope from those eras, the sassy kid. But I thought she did have a lot of humor and character to her thing, and I thought she was like really entertaining and really engaging, not too cloying, and she brought a lot to the film.
The dad is a fucking Tywin Lannister motherfucker.
Yeah, he's an interesting fellow.
He's an interesting fellow. He will look you in the eye. He's so honest.
You have everything that it takes to make a lovely woman except the one essential, an understanding heart. And without that, you might just as well be made of bronze.
And another thing, Cary Grant's character, it's so... that this is the power of performance, right? Cary Grant's character doesn't really do anything. Mm-hmm. He's a very passive character, although he kind of manipulated everything to go that way.
Yeah.
So he's not passive in that sense, but it seems like he doesn't have a stake in things, that he's just letting things go.
Yeah.
That whatever happens kind of deal. Although that's not really the case, but he acts that way.
And what's that make you worth, C.K. Dexter Haven? Bringing us down here.
But you know why I did that, to get even with my ex-bride. You told me so yourself.
He's a very cool sort of like mastermind behind like subtle puppeteer.
But not really masterminding anything,
yeah.
right? He's just like laying back.
He just like nudges things here and there to sort of, manipulate a little bit.
He's off the booze.
Yeah.
And he doesn't drink, but he's very kind of like, yeah, well, And then he punches Jimmy Stewart in the face. He's like, well, he's more fit than me. So that's what we thought about the Philadelphia Story. Next up is my pick, Me, Myself, and Irene. Directed by the Farrelly brothers and starring prime Jim Carrey and Renee Zellweger, Me, Myself, and Irene is a film about a Rhode Island state trooper named Charlie who, after years of continuously suppressing his rage and feelings, suffers a psychotic breakdown that results in a second personality, Hank. So, Sean, what do you think of Me, Myself, and Irene?
I do like the Farrelly brothers. I think they're they're fun guys. I mean, they definitely do gross out comedy, and I think this squarely fits in that genre. But I don't know. I don't know if I've like grown out of it or if it's just Me, Myself, and Irene. But I thought a lot of the bits fell flat for me. One of the character, because a lot of characters feel really flimsy, and it really just feels like a whiteboard to throw jokes on, I like, first off is the wife, like the wife just like ups and leaves him for the black Mensa midget, right?
Little person.
Yes.
Oh, it's on now. Hey, those things are illegal.
I'm surprised. I felt like I would have to correct you on that, but it's surprising that you have to correct me on that because I did live with a little person. But so she leaves with this dude, and she leaves the kids with Jim Carrey, and it makes like no sense because the dad is obviously the Menso guy, and he's like, oh, we have kids. All right, well, whatever, And then and it's not like the wife is like a raging, mean person or a bad person. She seems like a relatively affable person, and it seems like played off as like understandable that she would leave him, but there's no understanding to it. There's no play given to her. She just seems like a person that just ups and leaves and doesn't even play it off like a bad person. She just plays it off like, oh, I'm just gonna leave, And then and it's like, oh, that makes no sense whatsoever. And then like the Hank character, he's got some good bits, but he's pretty offensive.
Yes, I did! Oh, yes, I did!
Yeah, I need to get another beer before I. Okay, so Shaun's reaction is justified because, so this is, I feel like this is a reaction to watching the movies back to back.
A little bit, yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, the Farrelly brothers, it is super lowbrow. This is a film that's super lowbrow, following the Philadelphia story. This is the Farrelly brothers' peak. Okay, so they did Dumb and Dumber. This is the second movie they did with Jim Carrey. And if you look at the jokes, the way the jokes happen, in the first part, before Hank appears, the introduction of Hank is so brilliantly done. The dog shits in his yard. The neighbor refuses to give him the paper. Barbershop, go park my car. Little girl screams at him. The grocery store, a mom wanted to go past him. Turns out she has 2 full carts of groceries with her fucking kids. And that's when Hank appears. He gets revenge on the mom.
That's VegiClean.
Then you see him drowning the little girl. Oh, and then he was milking the big-breasted MILF. Parked the car inside the barber shop. Goes home, gets the paper, then takes a shit in his neighbor's yard. So that's like, what, 5 punchlines set up and then payoff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And like in the Philadelphia story, the characters carried this. Because it is a very kind of, it doesn't make sense, right? Logically, a lot of the things are kind of like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah.
However, the performances made up for everything. I mean, okay, Jim Carrey carried the film with his performance with Hank and his double personality. And it progressively gets worse and worse. Like in the beginning, you're kind of like, okay, well, it only appears once in a while. But then after a while, it becomes, they're doing that Fight Club shit. And Renee Zellweger, I mean, I only know her from, what, Bridget Jones' Diary and, you know,
I mean, she's done a lot of
Maguire?
Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire,
Jones'
great
Diary,
movie.
Cold Mountain.
But here, she's actually really hot. Like, I was like, oh, wow, you know, she's actually very attractive here. I never really saw her that way. But in this movie, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm inclined to believe. And as a romantic comedy, hey, guys, if your girl asked you for a romantic comedy, pick Me, Myself, and Irene.
Or don't. That's a good idea. As a romantic comedy, it's like, I don't know, you know, like, in this day and age, I don't know if women would like it if a dude randomly sucked on a breast, you know, and just was like, oh, you know, because that's, and then also like,
who doesn't like breast milk?
Yeah.
Man, woman, or child?
I mean, like, I don't know. Somebody, I was looking at reviews of this film, and I thought one good, you know, thought of this was that instead of like having the actual like Jim Carrey like sucking at a tit, you could just have like the milk mustache, and that would be like a subtle hint. And you would realize it later, but there's no subtlety in this film.
They had balls back then. Nobody would do that today.
I'll give you, it qualifies as a romantic comedy, but if you're showing it to your girlfriend and saying, hey, here's a romantic comedy, I don't know how
my girl actually loves this film.
She was a big fan.
She's a big fan of this.
But there is like a very tenuous semi-rape.
Oh, Jesus!
But yeah, I think there's a lot of like things that are like, I don't know, especially like maybe if you're dating somebody who's very opposite of woke or whatever you want to call it. But
why would you want to date somebody who's woke?
Well, I don't know. You know, pretty attractive women that are woke. But yeah, I don't know. Like a lot of the jokes just, it seemed like really sort of like on the nose stuff, and I can take on the nose stuff. But as a result, I feel like some of the stuff just didn't land as well as they have in other Farrelly Brothers films.
So let's go on the verdict. Let's go verdict. Okay, Shaun, it's very apparent what you're gonna pick, but go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Philadelphia Story. I thought this movie was a lot of fun. I thought it was very smart. I thought it was very quick. The humor was just very very in depth and nuanced. The story developed well. So yeah, and the romance was really strong. There was actual romance in this film, and I generally thought it was a lot of fun and very smart. But this one I wasn't such a big fan of. Maybe because I'm older and more woke, as much as one hates to admit.
So okay, the first inclination is to absolutely say, okay, I'm gonna stick with Me, Myself, and Irene. I love that movie. But to me, I give this. It's a draw to me. It's a draw. Philadelphia Story. If you want something sophisticated, if you want something very civilized, good humor, well written, powerhouse performances of absolute, stars. But these are the definition of stars. Philadelphia Story has it. So I can't shit on that film. I really enjoyed it. I'll watch it again. And if I were to recommend it to people, I would. However, I mean, Me, Myself, and Irene, Farrelly Brothers films, I mean, Jesus Christ, how can you go wrong? If you're thinking of some, it's kind of like, you go to a Metallica concert and you say, let's turn it down a notch. You don't go to a Metallica concert and want it turned down a notch. Anyway, that's our review for Philadelphia Story and Me, Myself, and Irene. So, what's the outro?
Oh, okay. So be sure to tune in next time when we try to find out who was right.
Shaun or me.